as well on the show. Surabhi's been busy. She's been working the phone lines. Surabhi, I believe the finance ministry officials, they met with capital market participants. Tell us, what do you pick up on that interesting stuff?
So yeah, I was trying to just figure out what's going on behind closed doors and all the pictures that we're seeing on social media. And I kind of picked up four key takeaways or four key areas of conversation that seem very interesting. I mean, from a capital market standpoint. So number one, the PSU buzz did come up in this meeting, in this conversation. Because obviously the government is extremely happy with the moolah it's raking in, with the market going where it's going and PSU stocks doing what they're doing. Now, one suggestion that came in from industry was that when you start looking at divestment, which was the expectation after elections, and now that we have, Modi 3.0, please start looking at low-floating stocks first. And the rationale is very simple and clear, that it is here where sometimes valuations can go completely out of whack and maybe, even enter bubble territory in some stocks. So that was request number one, that look at divestment, particularly in the low-floating PSU stocks. Number two, and this is a really hot subject, on F&O. So how can the F&O market be cooled down? Does it need to be cooled down? That was another point of debate. And industry participants did acknowledge that, yes, there is a need to ensure that retail investors don't get burned. So how do you do it? Now, one suggestion was, and of course, there's no unanimity on this, but these are deliberations that were sort of going around, that increase STT on the big whales, the big fish. And, what do I mean by that? The high-frequency traders, the algo-based hedge funds that are trading in large numbers, large quantities, and many of them are actually foreign funds or foreign-based funds. So set a threshold in terms of the turnover, and that's how you can segregate and filter out. So retail will probably be out of the purview. And, wherever trading volumes are extremely high with some of these hedge funds, there increase the rate of securities transaction tax. By the way, just a little bit of trivia, I was doing some research on it. India, by the way, accounted for 84% of all equity options contracts, not in value, in number of contracts that were traded globally in 2023. We were just at 15% a decade ago. Now it's 84%. That's the extent of increase in the F&O market. Quickly moving on, the mutual fund industry had its own ask. Now, the mutual fund industry wants the regulatory architecture to be overhauled in a way that they can start offering pension schemes. Remember, pension plans are governed by the PFRDA and, it's under the insurance regulator as well. But mutual funds also want the freedom to start launching diversified schemes, but ones that will focus specifically on retirement planning and some sort of a pension plan. So that was their ask. And last but not the least, this was something that was brought about by a lot of asset managers as well. A lot of Indian asset managers have global funds, offshore funds, which are being managed by Indians. They're being run by an Indian asset manager, but they could be domiciled in the US or, let's say, in Singapore. So the ask is that enable the regulatory framework to bring these funds onshore, right here in India. And the way that needs to be done is perhaps overhauling the safe harbor rules and as well as some taxation aspects. So the request was that don't tax individual global foreign investors, tax this at the fund level, but not at the investor level, and also make compliances a little easier. So some of these funds which are located overseas right now can actually shift base and, come here at home. So these were some of the discussions. But overall, and Nigel, what I got was that it was a very holistic, wholesome conversation and a lot of exchange of good ideas. So I think a lot of participants, most of the participants came out quite happy with it.
Well, interesting, Surabhi. We'll have to keep an eye out and see what more in terms of action comes out of that. Well,